The cowboy had long lived by the rules of the wild country, where survival depended on instinct, grit, and the loyalty of the one creature a man could always trust, his horse. She was a chestnut mare with a white blaze down her face, strong enough to outrun storms and sure-footed enough to carry him across the most dangerous terrain. He had broken her in himself, spent years earning her trust, and through countless lonely nights on the trail, her steady presence had been his only companion. She was more than an animal. She was a partner, and in many ways the last reminder of his own humanity. That was why when he rose one morning to find the corral gate open and the mare gone, the shock cut deeper than any blade. The cowboy dropped to one knee, tracing the prints in the dirt with calloused fingers. The tracks told him she had bolted north, her stride steady but fast. His chest tightened. A man without his horse was half a man, vulnerable to the dangers of the open land. He saddled up a stubborn mule he kept for supplies and set off in pursuit, calling her name into the dry wind until his voice turned raw. Hour after hour he searched. He rode across ridges and down through gullies, scanning the earth for fresh signs, the sun baking his back. But the trail faded with the heat, and all the land gave him in return was silence, and the lonely cry of a hawk circling high above. By late afternoon his body ached, his throat was parched, and despair gnawed at him. When dusk settled in and the horizon turned crimson, he finally returned to camp, beaten down and hollow. That night, he sat by the fire staring at the empty saddle lying beside him. He remembered the countless miles they had traveled together, the nights she had carried him through blizzards and floods, the quiet comfort of her breath when the cold threatened to steal his warmth. Now the firelight only made the emptiness beside him sharper, and his chest burned with the kind of grief men rarely admitted. Sleep, when it came, was filled with restless visions, the pounding of hooves into endless shadows, the sight of someone else riding where he should have been, and a woman's distant voice calling across the wind. Before dawn he stirred awake, restless and weary. He sat in silence as the first light painted the ridges with gold. Then he heard it, hoofbeats, at first faint, then stronger, echoing through the silence of the morning. His hand went to the grip of his revolver, instinct guiding him, though his heart pounded with hope. He rose, staring at the horizon as the sound grew louder, and then he saw her. His mare, chestnut coat gleaming, cresting the ridge as if she had never been gone. Relief washed over him, but it froze in place when he saw the rider astride her back. The figure was a woman. She sat tall and sure, her long black hair flowing in the wind, adorned with feathers that caught the light. Her dress was fringed buckskin, decorated with beads, her posture confident, as though she had always belonged in that saddle. She was Apache, and her eyes, even at a distance, held a fierce sharpness. The cowboy's stomach twisted. His horse had never allowed another rider, yet she carried this woman without protest. It wasn't theft. It wasn't chance. It was something deeper. The woman guided the horse down the slope toward him, dust swirling around her. The cowboy stood rooted in place, torn between gratitude, anger, and awe. He could not speak. He could only stare, his world shifting beneath him. For in that moment, he knew this was no simple return. His horse had come back, but with her came a story larger than he could yet understand. The cowboy didn't move as the woman drew closer, the mare stepping with calm obedience under her hand. She guided the horse with ease, the reins held lightly yet firmly, her presence radiating quiet control. The cowboy's relief battled with unease, and unease with curiosity. This was his horse, his loyal companion, yet she moved now as though bound to the stranger. When they stopped a short distance away, the air grew thick with silence. The horse tossed her head and snorted, restless between them. The woman dismounted in a fluid motion, her moccasins touching the ground without a sound. She placed her hand gently on the horse's neck, stroking her with tenderness. The mare leaned into her touch, and the cowboy's heart clenched at the sight. All the years he had spent building trust with this animal, and now in a single night she had given her loyalty to someone else. Still, he did not draw his revolver, nor did he lunge for the reins. Something in the woman's calm presence stopped him cold. She turned to face him at last. Her gaze was unwavering, her eyes steady, and when she spoke, her voice was low but strong. She told him the horse had wandered into Apache land, hungry and thirsty. She had found her and cared for her through the night, keeping her safe from coyotes and the dangers of the wild. Her words were plain, but they carried truth, and the cowboy felt his anger ease into reluctant respect. He nodded, tipping his hat slightly, acknowledging what she had done. Yet the question still gnawed at him. Why had his horse accepted her so easily? As if reading his thoughts, the woman asked him why a man like him looked so broken, without a creature that could leave him at any moment. The words hit him harder than any bullet. He realized then that his bond with the horse was not just survival, it was love, a rare and fragile connection in a world where everything else slipped away. For the first time, he saw her not as a thief, not as a stranger, but as someone who understood loss, loyalty, and the fragile threads that held people together. In her eyes he glimpsed her own battles, sacrifices, scars and stories unspoken. The horse stood between them, content with both, as if she had known all along that this meeting was meant to be. The cowboy asked her name. She gave no answer, only looked to the horizon where the land stretched endless and wild. Her silence told him names were not easily given. That trust was a gift that had to be earned. What she had offered already, his horse, alive and stronger than before, was enough. As the sun climbed higher, the cowboy felt a choice stirring in his chest. He could take back his mare and ride away, retreating into the solitary trail he had always known. Or he could listen to the pull of fate, step into the unknown path that had opened before him with this woman and the bond she shared with the animal he thought was his alone. The horse stamped, snorted, and flicked her tail, as if urging him to see what she already knew. The cowboy removed his hat, lowering it in quiet respect. The woman nodded once, a gesture small yet powerful. No more words were needed. Something larger than ownership or pride had bound them together. This was no ending. It was the beginning of a story neither had expected. The cowboy's horse had returned, but with her came an Apache woman,